So today we are going to talk about the Ahab and Jezebel spirit as it relates to narcissistic personality. I'm Coach Hadassah, metaphysician, minister, emotional health and wellness coach, helping you to navigate this healing space from narcissistic abuse. So I was asked a question about, the Ahab spirit or the Jezebel spirit as it relates to narcissistic personality disorder. And these are things that you'll hear in the more religious or Christian community about the Ahab spirit or the Jezebel spirit. So as it relates to the clinical psychology terms, the Ahab spirit would be the covert narcissist, and the Jezebel spirit would be the overt narcissist. So in the scriptures, you get this from the book of First Kings and Second Kings, and I'm actually going to read something out of just a little bit out of Second Kings when it came to the end of Jezebel. So First Kings, that would be. Not going to read it all. This is something that you want to do in your own research. So Ahab, he was a king of Israel after his father's death. So that's First Kings chapter 16, like specifically verses 29 through 33, but just read the whole chapter, right? First Kings 16. And then for Jezebel, that is Second Kings chapter 9. Second Kings chapter 9 at about yeah. So read that, but we're going to read that here. So again, Jezebel, overt narcissist, Ahab, covert narcissist, they were married. Okay. So these spirits, so to speak, come together. So they're not separate, they act together. So Ahab, he was covetous, and of course that's one of the commandments, right? Like, thou shalt not covet. You don't covet your neighbor's belongings, their husbands, their wives, their children, any property that they have. You just don't covet. Okay. But that's what Ahab was. He was covetous, and he built his in his acquisition, he was let's just say lust. Okay. Inordinate desire is lust. Okay. So when he acquired things to someone else's hurt or someone else's harm, it's gonna now we live in this is abundance. Okay. Abundance, just like in the scriptures when it says in the beginning, where Yahweh gave Adam and Eve that commandment there. You shall eat freely of the trees of the garden, but this one tree, don't touch lest you die. Right? And so you got an abundance. Then you're talking about this one thing. Well, shoot, leave that one thing alone. You got an abundance right here. And, so then we know the rest of the story as it goes down. So we're not talking about that though. So, his inordinate desire to covet and acquire based on someone else's hurt, someone else's lack, someone else's harm. When you have an abundance, like, that's crazy. It's crazy work. Okay. But that's what he did. However, in his doing so, he was very passive aggressive about it. You know, the behavior would be, I really do want that thing over there that is someone else's. And so his wife, Jezebel, Oh, my king. Oh, I hate to see you so down and sad. And what what do you want? What does thou want, my king? I mean, I really, really do want that, but and oh, my king, you wouldn't have. So Jezebel, in her overt way, goes about to get said thing for her king, although it's somebody else's. And again, it harmed the people, it unalived them, like all of that to get what he wanted, which was not good. All right. So then Elijah, who was a prophet, basically prophesied her end, and this was her end. So let's see. And when I'm gonna start at, this is 2 Kings chapter 9 verse 30. And when I always have to use the for real terms anyway. So when Yehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her face. She put some makeup on, right? She painted her face and tied her head and looked out at a window. And as Jehu entered in at the gate, she said, "Had Zimri peace, who slew his master?" And he lifted up his face to the window and said, "Who is on my side? Who?" And there looked out him 2 or 3 eunuchs. And he said, "Throw her down." So that they threw her down. And some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall and on the horses. And he trode her underfoot. And when he was come in, he did eat and drink and said, "Go, see now this cursed woman, and bury her, for she is a king's daughter." And they went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull and the feet and the palms of her hands. Wherefore they came again and told him, and he said, "This is the word of Yahweh, which he spake by his servant Elijah," or Eliah, the Tishbite, saying, "In the portion of Jezreel shall dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the carcass of Jezebel shall be as dung upon the face of the field in the portion of Jezreel, so that they shall not say, This is Jezebel or Jezebel." So her fate was that, I mean, like she was trampled underfoot by the horses, and they could only find her, like I said, her hands, her skull, and her feet. So they couldn't even bury her. She didn't even have the honor of a proper burial. And then the dogs uh ate her flesh. The dogs. Jezebel spirit. So that she, my man want this, so my man gonna get it. My man want that, so my man won't gonna get it. Overt. And her man, which was Ahab, passive aggressive, covert narcissist, in which they say that's one of the most dangerous narcissists, because they're so subtle and so, covert in their ways. You don't, really see it coming until you're in hook, line, and sinker. And and they will use other people to do their bidding, right? So that's Ahab and Jezebel, covert narcissists, overt narcissists. And that's how you really marry the two when it comes to the, the religious or spiritual world and the clinical psychology world, to see that type of spirit. So that's it. And I'll see you in the next video.